evening. My name is Janet Akingbule, and this recording is to review the mock interview for an English teacher for the 8th grade teaching position at New Horizons Middle School. So the interview with the teacher went well. I came into the interview, I introduced myself. The candidate introduced herself as well. She was asked if there was anything that she needed before the interview started. She responded that there wasn't, and then I began to ask her the questions. She was able to respond to each question eloquently, such that I could understand what she was saying. There were no questions to which she couldn't give a response. I'm going to go ahead and review some of the questions as well as her responses and what I liked about them. When she was asked about collaboration, agency, written and oral communication, as well as knowledge and thinking, which are our school-wide learning outcomes, and the relationship to state standards, the teacher was able to respond very positively. She was able to explain that oral communication on oral and written language are part of the state standards and that they blend very, very well with the TICs. They're actually part of the requirements of the TICs. She was also able to explain that in her classroom, students are always reading and writing, and that as they practice and learn those skills of reading and writing, that they collaborate together and communicate together as they do all of those. She was also able to explain that agency, one of the school-wide learning outcomes, is an important part in her classroom, and that is something that she's actively teaching to her students, because having agency is important as a life skill, so that when students encounter a difficult situation, they are able to address it with some good options. They're able to address it in a positive manner using a growth mindset. I really like that answer because it shows that she's thinking about students not only as 8th graders, but learning skills that are going to take them later on in their lives past the 8th grade and through to other things that they will experience in life. So that was one of the responses that I liked that the teacher responded to. Another question that I asked was about a lesson or a unit where students were able to engage in meaningful collaboration, where they were able to demonstrate agency or communicate in authentic ways. And the teacher was able to respond that recently in the past year in one of her classrooms, students were able to debate the TikTok ban and how it impacts society. This is a topic that is very relevant to students' lives, as the vast majority of them are very familiar with TikTok. Most use TikTok on a daily basis, and this is something that would impact them very significantly. So I was able to hear that she was able to incorporate something that is very relevant to students into her classroom and was able to use that as a platform for students to practice their oral communication skills and their debating skills. And the teacher reported that given how relevant the topic was, that the debates were very engaging and effective, and she was satisfied with the results. That the objectives of the lesson were met through that platform. Another thing that is very important as a teacher is to be able to build strong relationships with students. And I asked the teacher a question concerning that. And from the variety of answers that she gave, it reveals that this teacher is passionate and about building good relationships, good lasting relationships with her students, to a point where those relationships are nurtured and students come to trust her and where they come to trust each other in the classroom. She did share that it's about nurturing that safe environment from the beginning of the school year, where students can get to a place where they can even share private things safely in the classroom about their lives, that they feel safe with their teacher and that they feel safe with the classmates and the classroom as a whole. And she emphasized that this is all about setting up classroom norms and boundaries in the beginning of the year, and that this helps to be able to guide students throughout the rest of the year. There are other questions that were asked to the teacher that she responded very positively to. Another question was about students who are struggling in different ways, such as academically and socially. And one thing that she emphasized was that she would leverage relationships with other students in the classroom. And I thought that that was a very powerful answer, that she would think very strategically about where such students were going to be able to sit. She also mentioned sitting with such students potentially at lunchtime, helping to build that relationship outside of the classroom as well, to ensure that that student is in a good place. She also talked about, apart from the seating arrangements, how she would group that student very strategically. She also discussed how she would use, if there were information from the student's 504 or IEP, that she would leverage that information and use it to help the students be able to build their confidence socially and academically over the course of the year. So that answer was a very well-rounded answer. She talked about what she would do, how other students in the class would help that student. She also talked about helping that student to build friendships, reaching out to the parents, looking into special education 504 data as well, getting insights from different places, from different individuals, to be able to help the student overall. So I felt that was a very powerful answer, given that it wouldn't be what she was doing only, but what she and other people could do to help that student be successful both academically and socially. When asked about behavior management in the classroom, I like an answer that the teacher gave. The teacher discussed that she would incorporate district and campus policy into her classroom management. And I think that is very important, starting from the framework of what are the district and campus expectations and working that into her own classroom expectations. She also discussed that she would build relationships with students to a point where they trust that the teacher wants the best for them, so that the students understand that the classroom norms, the procedures, the rewards, perhaps even consequences are all coming from a good place, from a good heart, where she wants the best for students. The teacher also discussed reinforcing positive behaviors and also letting the parents know about positive things that are happening with their students. So all of those were powerful answers on how she would handle classroom management. So overall, the teacher's answers focused on the types of relationships that she would build with students. She's also very focused on reading, writing, speaking, and listening in the classroom, which are very important skills for English language arts, as that class is a foundation for other classes that students will be taking. For example, ability to read and write very well is going to translate into every other class that students will be taking, and other things that they will be engaged in, other extracurricular activities, as well as life outside of school. In addition, the teacher is very knowledgeable about her content area. She understands how to set up a lesson, how to use do nows, exit tickets, how to use a variety of activities to meet the needs of her students. In addition, the teacher understands that it's important to help her students learn how to be critical thinkers and to help them develop different perspectives or understand different perspectives, especially those that are different from their own. One thing that this teacher said that she would be doing is that she would be collaborating with the social studies teachers and using historical events that students have already learned about in social studies as a backdrop for the lessons that would be happening in the English class. And this brings out a cross-subject learning, where students are able to learn the facts in social studies, learn about perspectives in social studies as well, and then use that as a platform to hone their reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills in the English class. Also, this teacher seems like a person that would collaborate very well with other people at the school. The teacher is willing to work with grade level team, to work with department teams, to lead, but also to give others the space and the opportunity to bring in their own ideas and to lead. Also, this teacher knows how to use data to inform their instruction. They talked about how they would use backward design in their lesson planning and how they would conduct different types of assessments to ensure that their students were at the levels that they were supposed to be. Overall, a number of things that would be done differently with this interview is that I would spend a little bit more time breaking the ice, helping the teacher feel at ease, as teachers can be nervous during interviews. So it will be really important to help a teacher feel comfortable before starting to ask questions at the beginning of the interview. Also in this interview, a few more things that I could do or could have done would have been to speak more about the school culture, also what the expectations of the position are. I would have also spoken about how we support candidates, how we coach and give feedback, and how we expect candidates to utilize that feedback for their own growth. I would have spoken about things like walkthroughs, classroom management, lesson planning and refinement, and how administrators, instructional coaches, as well as department teams and grade level teams are available to help the teacher with those areas. So those are some things that I would have honed in or highlighted in that interview. One thing that I would have also spoken about is the other teachers that they would be working with. That is the other English teachers that would be teaching the same grade level, as well as the other English teachers in their department, to give them a little bit more information so that they can make an informed decision about the position. In addition, I would have spoken about how PLCs function, the professional learning communities, how they function on our campus, and what the teacher could expect from that. Another thing that might have helped the interview also would have been for the interview to be a panel, not just me as the administrator. It would have been helpful to hear the perspective of other people on the panel about the fit of the candidate for the position. Also, would have been good to have some follow-up questions to probe and learn a little bit more about their classroom management style, so that I and other administrators, other people on the interview committee, could anticipate their strengths and weaknesses even before they come into the classroom if they were hired for the position. A number of things that I learned personally from interviewing is that it's important for the interview committee to be timely and to communicate effectively with the interviewee, so that the process of setting up the interview is straightforward and is easy for the candidate. Also, it's important for an administrator to, as well as the interview committee, to understand the candidate's background through their resume properly, and that will help to build the interview questions that are going to be asked, so that a determination can be made as to how good of a fit they are for the campus, for the students, for the school, as well as to understand their educational background in terms of, do they have sufficient content knowledge, or what is their content knowledge? Have they been through a teacher certification program, for example? Have they passed their examinations that they need to take? Other things that are important to do is that it's important to speak with their references and to understand a little bit from someone else's perspective what their experience has been working with other people previously. And very important, it's important to ensure that the candidate is a good fit for the campus, a good fit for the students, that they're going to be able to effectively manage the relationships with students, with other teachers, other staff, as well as family members. Also, it's important to understand that that the interviewing space must be a conducive environment for the interviewee and the interviewers to ensure that the entire process is as seamless as possible. One thing that was definitely surprising from the interview was that the candidate didn't have any questions. It would have been good if they had more questions that could help them understand the school, understand the position and the role, so that I could have shed light on that for them. Overall, the interview was a very good interview with the candidate. I appreciated that they said they enjoy working with 8th graders, that they have raised multiple I think they said 3 children of their own that have passed through 8th grade already, and they're going to be bringing in some of that life experience over time into their role as a teacher. I also like that the candidate expressed that they were excited to guide students through the interesting time that is 8th grade as students prepare for and transition out of middle school and into high school. This particular candidate comes to the position or comes to the interview with 7 years of full-time experience as an English teacher, and prior to that they have had about 3 years of part-time experience as a teacher assistant. By the end of the interview, this is a candidate that would be recommended for the position. From my perspective, they seem like a very good fit for our school, for the culture, as well as for students, for working with administrators, as well as parents. Overall, their values align with the values of the school, and I will be happy to recommend them for the position. So this is a review of the interview with the English teacher who interviewed for the 8th grade English teacher position at New Horizons Middle School. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.